All right. Good morning, afternoon, or evening. Today we are going to somewhere in Italy, November 20th, 1943. Dear Ted and Nina, you could have floored me with a well-known feather. 5-minute period devoted to recovery from acute shock. Your two-page V-mail dated October 29th came in yesterday, and very welcome it was. When I noted the return address, I dropped 8 packages which have arrived at the same time from a combined surprise and eagerness to read with what you had to say. I see that you two are doing very well. I am glad to hear it. Best of all, I'm glad Ted has finally left the Courier and is now expanding his horizons. I wonder if it was any kind of shock to HHW when Ted said he was leaving, and now who's now in his place. I'd like to see some of the issues after August 30th. I guess they'll be coming in now. My latest is August 26th. Ted knows only too well I'm very much interested in the details of the situation. I've been quite busy during the spring and summer, so I kept my correspondence to a minimum, until August when I reopened with you. Sometime last May I've received a birthday card from both of you. Wonder if I've mentioned this, and have intended to drop you a few lines. I realize both of you must have been well occupied or will have written a couple letters or so. It does a man good to read what you've got in a home of your own, but it is news to me that Brace Avenue is on the west side of Detroit. I first noted this by the postal station number 10, which is the same for my home and my sister in Warrendale. Had the idea that you still lived in the vicinity of Drexel. I hope Ted will be able to write soon, and will tell me about his new job. He's known the UAW leaders long enough to have something like that. Certainly his future is much brighter that way. It seems that most of my friends in Detroit are located in the same general area you live in Brace, besides my sister who has a home in Warrendale and another in a home in Marysfield Avenue. There's a school teacher friend, Mrs. Schroffer, boys, junior trade school, Munger, living in Carolyn, and a young couple living in Coyle. No, I did not hear about your second boy, Charles. Neither did I know Margaret was married. You didn't mention receiving the 2 Allied military currency notes I mailed you, but I suppose they came in. I'm enclosing a British military authority 1-shilling note in this letter, which is worth 20 cents. The limeys are paid off with that kind of money. The Allied money was printed at the U.S. Treasury, with the Army footing the bill. I sent you the Stars and Stripes and Time and Newsweek to give you an idea of what we read here. The 2 news magazines are reduced to photo-sized copies of the original magazines. Sans advertising for overhead forces, and are well liked by the boys. We are supposed to get weekly shipments of magazines through the various special service branch of the Army, but these haven't been coming in very often. More recently, I mailed you 2 of email Christmas greetings as well as your folks and Margaret. They should have come in about December 12th, as you were to be held in the States until the 10th or thereabouts. Your inquiry about the picture in Statesport is about the 4th I've received. There are others who have the same picture in various row grave sections and asked about it. My sister Anne, Warrendale, sent me a clipping of the picture from the Chicago paper's root section. Well, the fellow does resemble me in somewhat. He is definitely not me. If I remember correctly, there were 3 soldiers on camel. I had 2 shots taken, one of myself and the other one of with the 2 other GIs and a British soldier. One of the sides was our Arab guide on a donkey. If you said Ted worked awfully hard in someone else's garden, I'd be inclined to strongly disbelieve it, as it is nothing like working for yourself and reaping the benefits. I can imagine that you're as happy as a woman can be, having your own vegetables to put in your own permanent kitchen to work in. Mrs. Warrendale's sister also planted Victory Garden, and I wrote to her about Kenning recently. That was too bad about your second baby being born a day before the first birthday. It would have made a fine coincidence. As to Ted being drafted, I doubt if he will. There are far too many men in the services and too many overseas, unless the government wants to create a huge reserve, which it already has, in uniform. Incidentally, my offer about the films is still open, and keeps getting them right along. Generally order 200-foot, 150-foot reel a month, and sometimes more. Have them mailed to her, and she shows them to my family, and her kids who can't get enough of the cartoons. Although she has a Univex 8mm projector, I advise that Ted borrow your dad's Keystone, as it is a better machine with more wattage. I've already written her that you two might drop to borrow the films. I'm enclosing a list of films that she has among what's coming. If your dad hasn't a screen, I've got a tripod type. Things have been quite quiet for some time. I've seen a couple German fighters shot down by Ack in daylight while in Sicily. Quite a few enemy planes have cruised over us at night, dropping flares. Have seen beautiful displays of Ack tracer fire directed at enemy planes at night. There's been a lot of strafing of the ground troops, but I've been in no danger yet. Here there are a lot of anti-personnel and anti-tank mines, killing a few men, including civilians. We've been trained to detect these mines, and many areas have protected barbed wire around them. The night before the invasion of Sicily, I saw more planes pass overhead than I'll ever see again. Hundreds upon hundreds of troops transports and paratroop carriers, all heading for Sicily in the twilight. It made a picture which would have been a beaut to record on film. I'd call it awesome, but the word does not describe it aptly. My outfit procures and delivers bombs and ammunition to the Air Corps. We're usually busy then. When the invading American forces landed in North Africa a year ago this month, the fascists told their people they were composed of tough convicts from the American prisons. When landings were made in Sicily, Rome radio said they were American gangsters. But the Italians have learned different, and they are treated better by us than the British. One of the latest places I visited in Sicily was Messinina, which figured a lot in the war news last summer. In Italy, I visited Regalo in the toe of Italy, in Tirano in the Arch, in Brindisi in the Hill. Brindisi fronts in the Arctic Sea, across which is Jugoslavia or Greece, or something like that. I have visited Foggia, and am hoping for an opportunity to see Naples, Mount Vesuvius, and the Isle of Capri, all in one general area. One of our boys bombed himself a turkey, and the thing walks around our campsite usually contently gobbling. Plans are being made for the turkey dinner, with all the fixins, this Thanksgiving. We're chipping in something like 50 cents apiece for extras. Still pretty chilly, but I have got the heat problem licked. My buddy and I constructed a stove out of a 5-gallon container with stovepipe salvaged from bombed homes. A supply of coal stolen from somewhere or other to provide the fuel. We are authorized GI stoves and piping, but none have come in. And these that are available go to hospitals and the like. You'd think that the Mediterranean Sea would have Florida atmosphere, which it has in the summer. Allied bombers have currently raised hell with Sicily and Italy. Everywhere there are bombed buildings and bomb and shell craters. Bridges have been blasted away and roads have been torn up badly. Many people were evacuated and took to the mountains and hills. We'll never receive a welcome from the German civilian population like we received in Sicily and Italy. These people were thoroughly tired and disgusted. When Musso declared war on the U.S., they called it a crazy war. Itty soldiers and civilians hung around our mess. My brother Samuel was drafted last March and sent to Camp Davis, a coastal artillery training center in North Carolina. Then he moved to Fort Fisher in the same state. Last I heard from him, he has moved to somewhere in New England. His letters were headed. They bore a censor stamp, said he couldn't write much about his whereabouts, and all we know is he was overseas bound. His address had an Army post office number. Another friend who Ted will remember, if I say he is my fascist friend, is up in the Aleutian Islands with San Francisco APO. Pretty cold. They live in the Pacifico huts and wear parkas, a two-piece affair with a hood. There are no towns and no women, his pastime, and their only source of entertainment is a phonograph. They have a 16mm sound projector with Hollywood movies like we have, but the thing broke down and no one's been able to fix it. I told him I figured he was in the Aleutian Islands, and he wrote back to say, "Your conclusions about me are correct, and just put me out on the far end of your conclusions and you'll have your finger on the spot," which means the Etu. And they have lots of rain and fog, he says. Too bad the Lord didn't see fit to bless us with webbed feet and oiled feathers. Matt. Hopefully you all enjoyed the letter. This one is pretty interesting in the fact that it talks about how the Italians are feeling about the U.S. presence along with the invasion of Sicily as well as the invasion of Africa. If there's anything you guys would like to add or anything you'd like me to do, please, by all means, don't hesitate to ask. My uploads I'm going to try maintaining regularly, but real life does happen. but when I can, I will upload as much as I can. Hopefully you all have a wonderful morning, afternoon, or evening. And this is Chris signing out.